Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yeah, basically we're just regular dudes drinking irregular beer and talking about Dungeons and Magic. It's too hard to keep track of these days.
Yeah.
You know? Talking about Magic the Gathering arena.
Yes, and this week we are going to be diving into some draft. We talked a bit about Limited last week, but we really want to get into it this week. But first, each week we both bring a beer, we drink our own, then drink each other's, then rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what is on tap?
All right, I have a beer that is called Scenic Root. Scenic spelled S-E-A-N-I-C, so I guess it's supposed to be by the sea. It's from Muskoka Brewing. It's a tropical IPA, 6%. And Muskoka is just a pretty good brewery. They kind of introduced me to craft beer around here. And so when they have new stuff, this is kind of their small batch collection. I always like to try it out.
Nice.
What have you got?
I am drinking, this is a Radical Goza from Henderson Brewing Company. It's their salted lime Goza. It's 4.4%. And the reason I picked it up is because it has a picture of these two little wizards. Actually, no, the more I look at them, they look like children. They're like little child wizards. And they have this big bowl, and there's a dragon in this kind of pink liquid. The bowl is over like this blue flaming fire. So I guess they're making some sort of dragon soup or something. I'm not quite sure. But
sort of potion.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, they're wizards. It's a potion. It's not a soup. You're not just drinking soup.
I mean, what is a potion if not wizard soup?
Wizard soup. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Anyway, magic news. Wow, we had a ban this last week.
Yeah, it's totally out of left field here.
I know that Wizards Wizards loves to ban cards right after we record an episode, but don't put it out.
That's right.
So they wanted to keep up with that. So the Book of Exalted Deeds is banned.
So they rolled a d20, and this is the card that got banned, right?
Yeah. The Book of Exalted Deeds is banned in Standard 2022Q. Not to be confused with regular current standard. It is not banned in regular current standard.
It's okay there.
It is only banned in the Best of 1 2022 Qs.
And when rotation happens, it will not be banned either.
Correct.
It's only banned for these, preview into rotation standard that they're offering on Magic Arena.
It's so weird. It's so... did we talk about this? Jeff, do you want to explain what that card does?
Okay, so it does a few things, but the main thing it does is it puts a token on an angel you control, and it turns it into Platinum Angel, where it says you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. And the combo, quote unquote, is to animate Faceless Haven, which, because it's changeling, it is technically an angel because it's all creature types. And then you put this token on your Faceless Haven. And because there are so few ways to interact with lands in the format, again, and it's best of 1, so you're not going to play main deck crappy land destruction, in your best of 1
exactly.
deck. It basically means you just can't win the game once your opponent has done this. But this card did not need to be banned. I mean, it's just like a janky combo that I ran into occasionally. I usually beat the crap out of the deck because it was playing so many bad cards. And I never got locked out of a game this way, but they're saying, it just slows the game down, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, no, if they did this, I would just concede.
Yeah, they got the lock.
I don't
and they
have
won.
to keep playing.
It's also not a really fast lock because the book costs 3 white pips by itself, and then to activate the book, it costs 3, and you also have to activate the Haven as well. So it's kind of expensive. Yeah, it's expensive enough, and you see it coming. So,
and if you hold up removal, you can kill the Faceless Haven in response.
Yeah.
And they're cooked.
So, yeah, I don't
It's not that good a combo.
It doesn't seem that great.
This is why I'm pretty sure they rolled a d20. They're like, we just have to screw the arena regulars by announcing something the day their episode comes out, that they're just they will have just talked about it, so they'll look like fools.
Exactly. So we just had to bring that up. You might have heard the news because it's been going on for a while. But some other news, actually, the Arena Open, we have the dates for that now. So it's July 31st to August 1st. So I guess those 2 days, that weekend. And the format is standard. Just current standard.
2022?
Nope.
Oh, no, really?
Just current standard.
I didn't know people still played that.
Yeah, they don't. No one does. So, That'll
Just
be,
the people practicing for the gauntlets play that.
exactly. They got to get ready for the dead format tournament that's coming up.
Yeah.
So, not as excited for this Arena Open. The other ones have been much more exciting. The limited format sealed was awesome, and this is like,
And it's just like, out of the past 3 limited formats, this is the one I'm enjoying the most. And that's when they're like, nah, we won't do limited again. Nobody liked that.
yeah. So that's a bit of a bummer, but I'm fine with them shaking up the format for the Opens. That's fine. It's just so hard. Just how are they supposed to know everyone's going to love 2022 so much? But
Standard just feels like the worst choice. You could do historic, you could do standard 2022, or you could do D&D draft, and I think those would all be accepted by the people that like them. And
do you think they would do
just
historic just because they would want the most new people to do it, right? And so that's why sealed works so well, because it's like, hey, you don't even have to know much; you could just play.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, anyway, I don't exactly know why. We'll see how they continue in the future, but I hope they continue to go back to sealed / make it so that we can draft.
Yeah,
that's what I would like.
Now that there's finally a format that's not just multicolor soup.
Yeah, exactly. a limited format.
Play that.
Exactly. Also, this week on Twitter, a lot of people were talking about the paper pre-release happened this last weekend. For us, it feels a little bit old. It's like, we've been playing with these cards for a whole week. I don't know why everyone's like that excited.
What do you mean the set's coming out? Pre-release.
I've already been I drafted so much. I almost have all the commons and uncommons already.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was one tweet that I really liked that was a great tip for playing with new cards. And it basically said you should read all of your cards at sorcery speed, not instant speed. And I just was like, that's awesome.
I love it. I won't do that, but I love it.
I will forget every single time, but that is
still
something.
Going to blitz through and assume I understand how the card works. Just cast it.
And just get screwed every time. Yeah. But anyway, just a reminder for all of you who are playing with new cards, just slow down a little bit maybe. Maybe that card doesn't do everything that you thought it did. Or it does more.
Just remember GP Toronto where the cards were all really new and I just had the win on the table, but I decided to attack before activating that land that sacks a desert to give your team +1/+1. And I'm like, okay, attack, activate this, you're dead. And then he's like, well, actually, you can only activate that as a sorcery. I was like, oh, so I lose. Oh, cool.
I see.
Good thing I read that card.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because that's at the very bottom of that card. And no one reads all the way to the bottom.
And it's like, I think 3 of the 5 lands were activated as a sorcery and the other 2 were not. So it's just like, the other ones that I had seen didn't work that way, so I just assumed none of them worked that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Lost a match where my opponent was dead on board because of it, so that was cool.
That's the worst.
And it was like a kill that I saw. It's not that I just missed that I can pump my team. I just did it at the wrong time.
You just did it wrong. That's fine. I've been doing a lot of that in these drafts. Anyway, let's get into it. Drafting.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah, exactly. Drafting Forgotten Realms. Oof. All right. So it's been 2 weeks now, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Check-in time. How do you feel about the format now?
Much better than last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I decided to kind of reevaluate some of the ways I was looking at the format, some of the thoughts I had about it based on our talk last week. And I've been winning a lot more, so that's good.
Nice. I feel like I've done a similar thing, except for I wanted to see if I could draft the other decks that you were drafting and win with them, and then I couldn't, and I
not so easy to play the garbage I was drafting and get wins.
Yeah, and then I went back to what I was doing before. So, but it's been great. Yeah. So basically, what kind of is that what's your epiphany from this whole experience so far?
Yeah, so I was talking a little bit about last week about how bad it was going, and I was thinking about it, and I think that's the worst start to a new draft format I've ever had, was this one.
I mean,
at least on Arena,
you did
where
say
I'm,
that
tracking it.
Yeah, you had like a 6-win run, though, at one. Like, I would count that as...
That was, my first one was 5 wins, and I had another 6 win, but I had like I 0-3'd 3 times in a row, and I've never done that before. So that was a unique experience.
I have definitely done that before. So that
because usually I do pretty well at the start of a format, and then as all the information gets out and people are looking up the streams and stuff, and I'm not doing that, other people get better, and I stay the same, and then my win rate goes down a bit.
Yeah.
Is usually how these things go. But this one, I started out so low that I was like, uh-oh, like, if this is my starting win rate, and it's all gonna be downhill from here, like, maybe this is not my format. But the big change I made was basically I was talking to you last week, and you were saying that you had some success attacking, with the red-white equipment deck and stuff. So I just started to try to draft some more aggressive decks, and I just started winning a lot more. Because I think you can like trick yourself into thinking the format's not that fast, because there are a lot of dirtly cards and boards do get locked up. But actually the format is quite fast, I think. You just have to be ready for it. So like you can dirtle, but I think you don't want to. I think you want to be the aggressor.
Gotcha. I mean, that's probably why I was doing all right. I don't think I was doing well, but the first thing I always want to do is start attacking. So yeah, that works out. Last week we had talked about a few different archetypes that were in the draft format, but I just wanted to highlight some of them quickly. It's just so we remember, because it's always like I remember the ones I like a lot, and then there's always the ones that I've never really played or seen really at all, and been like, what? And I think the first one
that's a thing.
Yeah, I don't see a lot is actually white-blue decks. I haven't really seen that many white-blue decks at all, actually.
Yeah, so ostensibly the white-blue deck is supposed to be like a dungeon control deck. So the hint that you get for this is like your common dungeon cards, because white is all about dungeons pretty much.
Yeah.
For half its commons. And then the blue cards that venture into the dungeon at common are Bar the Gate, which is a countering a creature spell, venture into the dungeon. And then you get like the 2/5 that when it deals damage, it ventures. Those are your only ones. So it's kind of telling you, hey, if you want to be the blue dungeon deck, you're defensive, because you're countering spells and playing 2/5s.
Yeah.
And so this is, some sort of like venture into the dungeon control deck. I think you don't see it a lot because, like I was saying, those are pretty bad cards. And so the good venture things in blue are at uncommon, like Displacer Beast and Fly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so you need those uncommons to want to play this deck. Even then, I've never really seen a version that wowed me.
Yeah. The only time I didn't really see... it was 100% not a white-blue deck, and it was just this Esper dungeon crawling thing that had, like, Hama Pashar, the uncommon legendary, that whenever you go into, like, a dungeon room, it triggers an additional time. And they also had a bunch of the white-black uncommon as well, which is very good. The Barrowin of Clan Under, the guy who, like, just pulls people back from the graveyard constantly. So that ended up being really good and very synergistic, but it was because they were using all of the dungeon things in between and making like this 3-color deck. Yeah. Of course, it really helped that, the first 3 lands they played were just straight Esper, so that's nice. Classic. Yeah. My opponent can do that. I can never do that. But
off their like 6/6/5 mana base.
Yeah, you're like, I always like to give them a nice, and I hope that it doesn't come across like I'm being like, oh, nice, great job, you got full. I'm like, no, that is pretty sick. Like, good job.
Yeah,
like,
that's awesome. That happens.
That's a good opening hand. Then great. But yeah, so I just haven't seen it very much. I'm assuming that it just isn't awesome. I don't know.
I think it's just tough for it to come together because it relies on
the uncommons. Yeah.
And so even when I have seen it, it's often just like blue-white flyers, kind of, because it's just there are a lot of creatures with flying, and that's always been a fine deck, but it's not really playing into the theme that was designed. I did have a pretty decent. I went like 4 or 5 wins, I think, so it's pretty good. Blue-white deck, and I just noticed that I had a ton of ETB abilities. So I had the 2/5 flyer that bounces something when it enters the battlefield. I had the Displacer Beast as well as the white version that ventures into the dungeon when it ETBs. Had a white dragon to tap something down and all that. Priest of Ancient Lore draws a card, gains life. I just noticed I had a ton of ETBs, and I happened to open Teleportation Circle.
Oh, of course.
Which is on your end step, you exile something and bring it back. So I was like, well, if there's ever going to be a deck that Teleportation Circle is good in, it's this one. and I did some wonky, and I've had the 3/2 that goes to fetch an enchantment, so I would always go get it. And then
Oh, that's cool.
I had some like wonky stuff going on. Like I won some games I should not have won by just bouncing my 2/5 flyer every turn and returning whatever creature they play to their owner's hand every single turn.
I never thought about being able to go fetch teleportation circle with that card, because I always think of it as, oh, go get your your charmed sleep and your like
removal,
enchantment
yeah.
removal, but not like that. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's a good idea.
It was fun, and it did reasonably well. Like I say, I think I did get a bit lucky, because I still don't think it was the strongest deck ever, but it was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, we'll have to see more into that, but initial reaction is it seems to be like fairly open. There's a lot of cards that aren't being picked from it. But the white and black dungeon speedrun deck, that's basically white black wants you to finish a dungeon as quickly as possible, and then all your cards get better because of it. And that one has been scarier to me, because usually it's already beating you down, and then everything just, I don't know, gets superpowers once you get there.
Totally, yeah. Like the 2/3 gets double strike and stuff.
Yeah.
There's also the removal spell that gets turbocharged.
2 and a black for the enchantment.
Yeah, precipitous drop.
So those kinds of things, it has been pretty interesting to me to see like how fast those things go, and even that, like I was saying, the uncommon, the legendary, he's just beaten me enough times for me to be afraid of seeing any of those dungeon crawling cards at the beginning of the game.
Yeah,
And I'm
totally.
like, I'm gonna deal with this guy, and then he's just gonna bring back every other card that has died in the game so far.
Yeah, super annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing this deck's been pretty good too. I think it's I kind of see it as kind of mid-pack, I guess. If they get going, then you can fall behind so easily, because all of their cards are just better than yours now because they've completed a dungeon. But they still do have to complete the dungeon, so you do have some kind of setup time.
That's true.
As long as you're prepared for their early game aggression, because what you don't want to do against this deck is like fall a bit behind, and then they complete their dungeon, and then
Exactly.
now all their cards are good.
Yeah. It's also good to know I was playing against someone who had a really great number of these cards, and their game plan going in was, hey, I'm going to complete a dungeon as fast as possible, so I'm going to complete the Tomb of Annihilation. And boy, did they just not get the hint for 3 turns, being like, you are not the aggressor in this, and you should have realized that earlier and not gone into that dungeon, because they're like stripping their hand. They're missing land drops and blowing up their lands just to complete a dungeon. I'm like, dude, you're dead already.
Yeah, I like your enthusiasm about this dungeon. But
Yeah, but you completing this dungeon is not going to win you the game. So it is great to complete dungeons quickly, but hey, it can be any one of them. Just because the Tomb of Annihilation is the fastest one to go through, might not. It really.
Yeah. I mean, I think your default should be the Lost Mines almost always.
Yeah.
Because it's short enough that you can realistically complete it. It gets you enough value, and it also doesn't commit to you being the aggressor, like the whichever one you were just talking about.
The Tomb of Annihilation, yeah.
Tomb of Annihilation, yeah. I almost never go into that one unless my opponents have one.
Yeah, that's the main reason why you'd want to do it. And if they're like low on cards, I'll do that one just to force them to discard some stuff, or get them closer to dead. But also another deck that I've tried multiple times is like the blue-black. It's like a saboteur kind of tempo deck, where a lot of your creatures care about like hitting your opponent, and so the uncommon can make your creatures unblockable. There's several different blue spells that also make your creatures unblockable for the turn. And there's some really good payoffs. Like there's the 1/3 that you get the treasure token from. The 3/2 that lets you draw a card. And some of those are just
even the crappy 2/5 that ventures when it hits, or there's the 2-drop uncommon that gets a +1/+1 counter when it deals combat damage.
Yeah, exactly. That one's great. Because that one can it gets a +1/+1 counter, but you can also pay a 3 and a blue to give it make it unblockable for the turn. That's Guild Guild Thief.
So it's
That card's
a little self-contained there.
Yeah, that's great. And which is funny enough that like the card Fly you were talking about earlier, that it gives a creature flying, and then whenever they deal damage, you get to venture. It feels more like it fits in this deck than it does in the dungeon decks almost. Like it's,
the only thing is like I guess the venture. I guess because you have so many creatures that want to just hit anyways. That
it seems like it's already your plan. And in some of the other decks, like the white-blue one, a lot of creatures have flying, which is awesome. And this is just, it's great to hit your opponent and, you get to venture. But I have found that I've really enjoyed it in this deck because, like, you already get all these sweet bonuses. And then, when you venture in the dungeon, you're like, oh, it's just extra,
Yeah, I've never actually drafted this. I always kind of want to, and I see the uncommon for it all the time, and it just never works out. Like I take that guy trying to end up in the blue-black Saboteur deck because I think it looks cool, and then just I see a Dragon's Fire or something. I'm like, fine, I'll go red again.
I'm so surprised that you keep talking about Dragon's Fire as if they're everywhere, and I feel like I never see them.
They are. Are you not getting them?
No,
everywhere?
I feel like I never see them. Maybe I've been able to draft like 2. I don't see them ever.
I had like 3 or 4 in one draft.
That's so gross. Man, I wish I was I was drafting at your tables.
Yeah, but I think one key card that a lot of people might overlook for this archetype, but it's actually just, been really good against me so often is the Rogue's Tools. Is that Thieves' Tools? So it's like 1 and a black, ETB, create a treasure token, equip 2, equipped creature can't be blocked as long as its power is 3 or less. And you just put this on like your 3/2 that draws a card, or your 1/3 that makes treasure, or anything like that. And I feel like it pays for itself so fast. I'm often panicking and trying to erase somebody who's drawing 2 cards a turn and stuff like that. And even if I kill their creature, this Thieves' Tool just creates another problem for me down the road. So I think this card is kind of an innocuous looking common, but I think it's actually just really good, especially in this deck.
And it's also super easy to pick up. Like, this card goes around for a while. Like, you can get this super late because people
It's like Dragonfire, you just pick it up like 8th, 9th pick.
Shut up. I don't get to pick that card. But yeah, I've just been... that one I have played with it quite a bit, and I do think that people should be like valuing it a bit more, especially with the equip cost 2 is really nice, because a lot of the other good ones in white are 3, which is just enough to make it annoying.
Yeah, and it gives you the treasure, so it's like, it almost costs 1.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
And the other good equipment is the Reaper's Talisman at Uncommon, which I think is just an awesome card, but it's really annoying in this deck because you just have so many, like your 1/3 that is hard to block now has Death Touch and drains for 2, and if they block it, they're going to die, but if they don't block it, you make a treasure token. I think this is just one of the better uncommons in the set, actually.
I think it's one of the best cards in the set. It doesn't help you when you're behind.
I mean, it does kind of, because it lets you drain for 2 and hold most of your team back.
That's true. I guess, yeah, you can attack with 1 creature, but...
I've won games where I just keep equipping goblin tokens with this in red-black and just drain them for 2 and leave my whole team back to block. And it's actually kind of hard to beat that.
Yeah, that's true. And they like take 3 if they don't want to just trade a...
Which they don't. Yeah, they don't want to trade a real creature for a goblin token.
That's true. I'm assuming what I was thinking is that you play this on a fairly empty board because you're like very behind and you top deck it and you're like, oh, this is not the card I wanted.
that is not what you want.
Yeah.
All equipment kind of has that problem of like, if there's no creatures, it's not good.
Goblin Morningstar is the one where
Except
you're like,
that one.
maybe.
Except that
although it's still not really great when you're behind though.
Yeah. But it's better than nothing.
That's true. But going from Goblin Morningstar, we were talking about the aggro equipment deck, the white-red one.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you've been having some success with this. Yes.
Yeah, this one is exactly, you do what it tells you to do. You draft cheap creatures, any cheap creatures. You want them all. Any white or red 1-drops or 2-drops. The worst one, I think, is the Goblin with haste, the 1/1. Mm-hmm. But basically all of the other ones you're happy with. And then you're looking for the cheap equipment. So you'll take a +2 mace. That's okay. Actually, I've been really liking the Boots of Speed because it's just like +1/+0 and haste is just a lot of damage in this deck.
I really like Delver's Torch, actually. I don't know if people love this, but just getting a dungeon trigger on attacks can sometimes change up what is going to happen with that attack. Sometimes it like makes it so the creature, you shrink a creature, or if you're far enough into a dungeon, or a couple different things. And also it just makes it inevitable that you're going to finish a dungeon. Even if you're not in that deck, some of your other cards just like turn on. You can get to the 2/3 that cares about, completing dungeons. You're like, sick. Like, I'm not even trying to do that, but this torch is helping me along the way.
Definitely. I don't mind it, but I've been preferring just having a +2 mace, because it is the same, like, cost and equip cost.
Yeah.
And it gives you +1, an extra +1/+1 I found to be, in general, a little better in this particular deck than Venturing.
I usually
I'll play this card if I don't find any other...
I usually just do both.
Yeah. The one I was thinking of was the dueling thing.
Dueling Rapier?
Which is okay as well, but it's not necessarily what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's just so cheap.
So if you're playing this deck, do you think you have to have the uncommon Brunar? Brunar.
No, but that card is, I think, like, of all the gold uncommons that go in their deck, that one is the best one in this deck.
It's bonkers.
It is just so much value. It's so much damage and so much mana that it generates.
Yeah. So
and is already a 5/3 for 4.
Yeah. So it's the 2 white-red for the 5/3 Dwarf Warrior, and each creature you control that's equipped gets +2/+0, and then you can equip things for 0, the first equip of your turn, which means that like that like Great Axe becomes actually like playable. You're like, oh, sick, yeah, I could play this Great Axe because I don't have to pay for the equip cost. It's just one.
Oh yeah, I lost.
A creature gets +4/+0, and you're like, no, it's +6/+0. It's so,
yeah, exactly.
It's
crazy.
so good.
Yeah. Other than that, the creatures you're looking for, the cheap creatures, like I said. I mean, you want the Ranger's Hawk, I think, because he holds equipment so well. Steadfast Paladin is like an A+ 2-drop in this deck, because it's just going to gain you so much life and let you race.
So great.
The 3/1 Hobgoblin Captain, who'll come up again and again, is just one of the best commons in this set, I think.
It's so good.
He's amazing, because giving first strike and a stat bonus is awesome. Yeah, and you just want them all, and the 2/1 that draws you a card and gains a life. Because again, it's just a body to hold the equipment, but it replaces itself. Ends up being really good.
Yeah. So
interestingly, the like commons that actually get bonuses when they're equipped, I think, are like the tier 2 of the 2-drops. You want them, but not as badly as you want the other 2-drops, because they're just better. Like the red 2/2 that gets menace, and the 3/1 is okay that gets +0/+2.
Yeah.
But I generally want the lifelinker.
Yeah, or have flying or something. Much better. So continuing on, the white-green life gain deck.
I've never had this happen, but I've played against this a lot. So I've drafted green-white once, and it had almost no life gain synergies. It was just like good removal spells, efficiently costed creatures. It was like the owl bear kind of deck.
Yeah.
And like, and I had a Dritz at the top end, which helped me win a lot of games.
That'll do it.
Yeah, but I didn't have I think I had the 2/2 Celestia thing that when you gain a life, you get a counter and scry. But I had like only one way in the whole deck to gain life, so I got it to a 3/3 maybe once.
Oh.
So I wasn't really doing the life gain thing, but that's what you're supposed to do, is take, the problem is they're all uncommons. Like, you want the Innkeeper, you want that guy that gets the counter and scries, you want the Cleric class, and those are all your recursive ways to do stuff like this, or the good payoffs. Otherwise, you're playing like the 2-drop 1/3 that gains 2 life, and the Unicorn 3/2 that gets a counter, which are both somewhat underwhelming cards on their own.
Yeah, well, you can play the 2/1 Dwarf that draws a card and gains 1 life. You don't forget that.
I mean, he's like one of the best white commons. He just goes in every white deck.
Yeah, but especially in this deck, just because when I was playing against someone, I was like, oh, sweet, you get to draw a card. I was like, you also get to gain a life, and then both of your creatures get counters? What the heck?
It looks like I'm conceding to your 3-mana 2.
Yeah, like, what is this? So, yeah, I mean, like, I also haven't played it really. Like, you played a version that wasn't really the life gain version. I haven't really fallen into this at all, but maybe I should. I've been seeing a lot of those unicorns just like going really late, so maybe. But it seems like I've had some problems against it a couple times, and you get to play Owlbear and you get to play the dwarf, and those are some of like the best commons in my opinion because they just replace themselves and they're awesome.
Yeah.
So just having
I
like
had somebody
good
with
creatures seems great.
I had somebody with the whole thing going. They had like the 2/2, and then they had cleric class, the 2/2 that gets a counter when you gain life, and then they also had the Sylvan, the 2/3 thing that attacks and you roll a d20
And you gain life with vigilance.
And they also had ranger class, and so they were attacking with this thing, pumping that up, and then it would gain life and pump something else up. And I still managed to grind them out because they had no trample. And so I just remember looking at that. I was like, that's about the best this deck can ever do. And I beat it, and it was tricky, but not particularly difficult, actually.
Yeah. Well, props to you, I guess. I would have conceded probably at that point, just been like,
I was thought about it, and I was like, let's just play it out. And then they were just kind of gaining life that was a bit irrelevant after, and I eventually managed to find a removal spell, which kind of dismantled the whole combo.
Yeah.
And then kind of took it from there.
Interesting. Yeah. I've heard it's pretty strong. I do want to play it, but I don't really like forcing anything, so we'll see if that ever comes about.
Yeah.
Now to my like least favorite one of them all, blue-green ramp value, like just blue-green stuff. Again.
So I haven't played with or against this at all.
No.
I've never played in a game of this limited format that involved someone on blue-green.
So I think that people are just kind of, we had this in Kaldheim and in Strixhaven, where it's like you're playing blue-green something with, red, some teamer, some ramping, play some big stuff, blow some things up, it'll be good. Yeah. It's nice to be in this format where it's like, you could do that, but it might be too slow. Yeah, it's a bit slow. So it's not my favorite color combination, and the way the games usually play out is also just like great. It's good value, great.
Like the only reason I know that's the theme is because of the green blue 0/4 that draws a card and puts a land onto the battlefield when you activate it.
I will say that is some groundbreaking design, not gonna lie. Like, I haven't seen that ability really ever.
Yeah, draw a card, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Like,
instant
it's
speed.
almost surprising it took them this long to come up with that.
I know, it just seems brilliant, because like blue draws cards and green puts lands into place, so
it's just so elegant.
How did they not think of that before? It's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. So as far as this deck goes, I don't really know a lot about it because I just have never seen it. Like, it really feels.
I don't know what you're supposed to do in this color pair, really.
Yeah, just play the purple worm, maybe.
That's a green card or a green black card, I think.
Well, it's a green card, but it's for green black. But like, do you still play that? I guess
it's for the green black.
Yeah. You just. But what are the other? Hopefully you get a dragon. I guess.
What else are you ramping?
Yeah.
Into,
what are you ramping into? Like. I guess the dragons. I mean, but all the decks want to do that, so it's not like you're special in that sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like
into old knob. You're ramping into the Tarask. That's what you're doing.
Oh right, yeah. If you open a Tarask, you can play that.
You just get that mythic rare 6 green 10/10.
Perfect. I'll make sure that I open that next time I'm playing. That'll make me want to.
That's the smart way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
And still lose because you're green blue.
Exactly. Moving right along, black green. Jeff, I'll hand the reins over to you.
Yeah, I've played this a couple of times and never really got it to work, but it's clear that the idea is whenever a creature dies, XYZ. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of cards that trigger off whenever a creature dies or at the beginning of your end step if a creature died, and so on. And so that's kind of the point of this deck. Black has a lot of removal, even at common. Even green has a lot of removal, actually. Like, there's a lot of fight cards going on at green. Mm-hmm. And, or I guess not fight, but bite cards where they deal their damage. And so, and they trigger off your creatures dying or their creatures dying. There's some ways to sacrifice. So it's kind of this, like, what you'd expect of classic Golgari of, like, try to grind them out and creatures dying matters. I've just personally it just never quite seems to get there for me. The cards are just individually too weak if you don't get your system rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, it also seems like the uncommon Shesra, how do you say that? Shesra, Death's Whisper.
Right.
Just doesn't seem awesome. It
just seems bad, actually.
It's like
I played it a couple of times, and it's never good.
Well, 4 mana 1/3. First of all, I'm just like,
yeah, his abilities better be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
if it's
and
a
they're-
4 mana 1/3.
and they're like, oh, you force creatures to block. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
It's like so I can attack my 1/1 and make them kill it so that I can trigger the creature died this turn thing,
clause. And then, yeah,
so that I could trigger that second ability one time.
yeah, it's not awesome.
And it's just too too slow, It's just 4 mana 1/3 is just too bad a stat line, and this format has a lot of stats are important.
3/1
It
first
almost
strikers.
feels like a core set in that way, where it's like, yeah, this is just a 3/3 for 3. It's just good.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll come back to the core set thing that you just said, because I think that is kind of important when drafting this set. But to one of my favorite archetypes, actually, is the Black-Red Treasure deck. This thing...
Yes, now we're talking.
This thing is sweet. All right, so so I usually hate playing black-red. I don't know what it is. I like black a lot, and red is not my favorite. And and then I've never, like, a lot of the, you attack, when this attack, it triggers a thing that makes you sacrifice a creature, and then it gets bigger and all that stuff. Has never been that exciting to me. I love the steal someone's creature and sack it. That's really good. And you can do that in this set pretty well with common cards, which is awesome. But I've like this whole treasure value thing, and like being able to step into all these different like decks. You can either be like an aggressive one, or like slow down and like just try to ramp out your dragons faster, whatever you have. I've loved this.
Yeah, this is an awesome archetype. I've only gotten to play it like once, I think, because it's also very popular, and so it's hard to get the the red black uncommon Kalane or whatever. I almost never see it.
Yeah,
because people are taking it. So
because it's so good.
Yeah, it's good and it's sweet, and
it's good
it's
and
a lot
it's
of
sweet.
Exactly, it's that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit aggressive, but it doesn't have to be. Like, it can kill you very quickly, but it can also play the long game.
Yeah.
And like, you got your deadly disputes and stuff. Sack a treasure, draw 2, put another treasure into play, or you could sack a creature, I guess. But yeah, this deck just has a lot going on. There's a lot of different ways you could build it. Like you said, you could focus on the steal sack thing, which I have lost to, or you could focus more on the treasure grind thing, which I have lost to. So it's like, this is just a really strong deck, and basically if you see a red or black common that talks about treasure tokens, it goes in this deck.
Yeah, even that fucking Herald of Hadar. Oh god, that's the 5 mana 4/4 that you can pay 6 to roll a d20 and drain.
Yeah, I was gonna say that doesn't reference treasure tokens, but that just
does.
goes to show I never hit a 20. So
yeah, it does, and of course they get the 20 right when they're trying to kill you, so the treasure's just for fun. Anyway, the reason I think it kind of, it's a dice rolly card, but it always feels like it's in that deck because at a certain point, sometimes they just are running out of cards and they don't have anything to draw, and they just have a ton of treasures or just extra mana, and they're just like, sick, I'll just do this because I got to ramp all my creatures out faster because the treasure tokens I used earlier, and now I just have 6 mana every turn to do whatever I want.
Yeah, and I've personally just been loving the Plundering Barbarian. So the 2 and a red 2/2 that you can either destroy an artifact or create a treasure.
That card
it just incidentally blows up so many things, and then the fail case of making a treasure is good too.
It's great. That card, because like we were saying before, the equipment deck is pretty strong, and having a bunch of incidental ways to blow up artifacts, the Plundering Barbarian is definitely a strong one. It's just like, yeah, I put it in my deck to make a treasure token, but oh look, there's an equipment that I don't really like.
Yeah.
Bye.
See ya. Or sometimes a creature that's bothering you just happens to be an artifact too, and you're like, oh wait, why was I thinking about making a treasure with this when I can blow up that 5/3 golem?
Yeah, exactly. It's And there's a lot of cards like that. That's not the only one. That just happens to be the creature that's like the easiest to justify. But a lot of the like double, like the choose your own adventure things, you're like, oh, okay, I could also just blow up an artifact. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, like it's legitimately to the point where when Bag of Holding was an M21, I think it was a bomb and it was a rare. And it was something you were actively hoping to open. And in this set, I don't even take it anymore because it just gets blown up. And all I did was spend like 3 mana to loot.
Exactly. And just like, put some cards in exile. Like,
yeah.
it's sweet. I love that.
Because I remember seeing it at Uncommon. I was like, what are they, crazy? They can't put this at Uncommon because it would just take over games of M21.
Yeah.
But obviously they knew better than me because they played with it and they're like, this actually sucks in this set because it's just gonna die.
Yeah, but we have to keep it in the set because it's the Bag of Holding and that's really important.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just gonna die for free is the problem. Like incidentally after they play their 2/2 or they play this other card.
Exactly.
It just dies.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue here too is that makes this deck so good is usually the red-black archetype has to play these kind of garbagey cards, like you say the active treason and the crappy sack outlets, and so their card quality is so low. But in this set in particular, the red-black deck has some of the highest just individual card quality of any of the decks, and also like a strong cohesive theme. So it just feels like even if you don't quite get there on your treasure synergies, your cards are just good.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so a lot of people consider that deck to be the strongest deck in the format.
Yeah, which I think I agree. I've played it a couple times, and I think it was the first deck that I played in my sealed pool, and it was like, oh, okay, this is awesome. This is gonna be sweet.
Yeah, I haven't played with or against it really enough, but I believe it.
Yeah, but moving right along to the blue-red dice rolling deck. We talked about this one last time, and after a week, my thoughts are exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm drafting it less than I was before.
I'm actively not drafting it.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid this one. It can be really good. It just requires everything to come together.
Which
because a lot of the dice rolling cards aren't that bad on their own. Like I actually
No.
like Swarming Goblins. The Faraday's Fireball is pretty good. Totally fine card and stuff like that. And we talked about Goblin Morningstar and whatnot. But to really make this deck pop, you do need the uncommons. So you need the one that makes a 1/1, the Fey Trickster.
yeah, that makes the fairy dragons.
Yeah, or you need the Chaos Channeler that kind of draws you cards when it attacks when you roll a die. And so it's inconsistent in the draft portion because the good payoffs for dice rolling are all uncommon. And then the dice rolling cards are common, sure, but it's not like they're amazing. They're just pretty good. They're just fine. And then it also is inconsistent in the games because you then need to draw your payoffs and a healthy mix of payoffs and dice rolling.
Yeah, and
So
this is kind of juxtaposed to the other ones where I guess the same way that the equipment deck, you need to have creatures and equipment. So yeah, you need two different things. But also the deck we haven't talked about yet is the Gruul deck, and that one is fantastic because you want like basically one thing to happen, and it happens every game. And it's play a bunch of creatures and turn them sideways, which is nice.
Exactly. You're just trying to curve out like you're trying to do in limited anyways.
Exactly. So it's already on par with what you're trying to do. That's why it feels strong. And the dice rolling deck is hard because you do have these synergistic pieces that you have to find. And even if you don't get them in the right order, it can be brutal. And then even when you find them later, they won't always bail you out.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're going to lose a lot to the red-blue deck, I think, when they just get their dream draw. And there just seems like they're making 1/1s all over the place and blowing everything up and drawing extra cards and stuff. But that's like the dream situation. You just have to know that they drew their cards in the right order.
Exactly.
And when you play it, you'll see, you'll go like 2-3 because that'll happen twice, but the other 3 games you'll just won't accomplish much.
Or it's the game that you just steamrolled them and you're like, what were they even playing? And you're like, it might have been the dice rolling deck.
Yeah, exactly.
They just didn't have any blue.
You just didn't notice when the dice rolling deck rolled low.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, okay, it's just whatever. I'm not worried about it.
But yeah, like you were saying, last but certainly not least is the green-red archetype, and this is my favorite one. It's the one I've had the most success with. Maybe red-white I've had the equal amount of success, but I love green-red, and all I try to do in this deck is take the really good red 2-drop with Pack Tactics and the really good green 2-drop with Pack Tactics. And my goal is to build a deck that enables Pack Tactics on those two guys as quickly as possible.
It's great. You're playing pump spells in this deck? You're doing...
I don't play a ton of pump spells. The one I do like is the Bard, the 3/3 for 4 that gives it +2/+2.
Yeah.
Because then you could go 2-drop, 3-drop, and enable Pack Tax immediately with the Bard.
Gotcha.
I just find the pump spells are just not that good in this format, like on a raw rate level, so I don't like to play too many of them.
Yeah, I know these things. I just I like pump spells, and so
Yeah.
I wanted to see which ones you were playing, if any. But you're playing a creature that also pumps, so I guess.
Like I think of like you see a pair of goblins, which can give your creatures +2/+0. But it could also has an out of making 2/1/1s, you know.
Yeah.
Or I play Valor Singer, which gives +1/+0 at the start of combat, and it's a 2/3. You know, these are pumping you, but
they do other things.
Good cards,
Yeah.
rather than the pump spells in this format tend to be pretty bad cards.
All right, so you're telling me stop playing Bull Strength? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I don't. I have played a Bull Strength in this deck, but I just don't like it. It's like the worst. What was the red one that costs 1 and gives more power?
Infuriate?
No, but it gets trample.
Oh, you're just...
Or maybe it costs...
It costs 1.
Maybe it costs 2.
It costs 2. You're talking about the one from Kaldheim. That's been in a ton of sets. Holy crap, what is that card called?
Anyways, this is like such a bad version of that it offends me.
But this one untaps. Surprise blocks.
I don't care about that. I have no interest in blocking.
I used that today because I was playing green-black, and I had the skeleton enchantment that makes the tap skeletons. And so I had to keep attacking with them. And so they eventually attacked in, and I got to untap and block their key creature with the skeleton they didn't think would untap. So, I don't know. Seems pretty good.
Oh, I was thinking of Run Amok, by the way.
Run Amok, yeah, that's the card. Yeah.
This is a terrible Run Amok, so...
It's a fine Run Amok.
It's bad. But yeah, this deck, again, you're kind of getting by on your card quality. And in particular, the strength of your 2-drops and being able to get out under your opponent. And then both these colors have really strong removal again, so...
Absolutely, similar to the black-red deck, which has awesome removal as well. So...
Yeah.
But hey, Jeff, do you have any last thoughts? Because I needed a beer.
No, my last thoughts are just draft red.
There you go, draft red. Because the red and green deck is good, the red and black deck is good, and the red and white deck is good.
Yeah, draft red, but don't take stuff that rolls dice.
Yeah, there you go. Stay away from that. That's the pitfall. You're like, oh, what did they say? Draft red? Okay, this red-blue deck seems pretty good.
No.
Not that one.
That's the only one you can't draft.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go to a beer break. So, Jeff, on the scenic route, I did read the back. Because of you, I'm starting to read the back of beers. I know it's crazy. But it does say this. So this is Muskoka Brewing Company, and it's their Moonlight Kettle series, which is their small batch one. And apparently they have different employees do their little... every month, 3 employees get together and make a beer. And so this is the one for this month. So it is brewed by Will, Mark, and Jesse. But the thing that I liked about it was on the side, it says venture off the beaten path. You picked this because it says venture.
That's why I brought this one.
Yeah.
Because of a venture.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because we're venturing into limited Magic the Gathering.
Off the beaten path, you know?
Yeah, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
The beaten path would be standard, and we're venturing off that.
Yes.
Into limited.
To limited. All right, anyway. So, finishing up our thoughts about some of the different archetypes and colors and things in draft, do you have any colors you? Well, okay. So we said that red is the best color, right? Do you have a color you might want to avoid?
We really liked 3 of the 4 red color pairs, right?
Exactly.
And I found, even when I was losing, I remember thinking red seems like the best color. And then when I was doing better, I agreed that red was the best color. And then it seems like the community kind of agrees on that too. Most people think red is the best color. Then I find blue is the worst color for me. I don't know if this is something that everybody agrees on. I couldn't really find posts about this.
Yeah.
It just seems to me like, I look at the blue decks. The Saboteur one is kind of cool, but it's hard to get into. White-blue, again, I never really see it. Blue-green seems bad, and blue-red seems bad. So
Yeah.
it just seems to me like blue is bad. Which is a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And then for me, all the other three are kind of equal in the middle. Like, different decks. The black-red deck's really good. The green-red deck's really good. The white-red deck's really good. So
Yeah.
all draftable alongside the best color, at least.
There you go. Yeah, I think I agree. My success with blue decks has not been very high, and I have recently been seeing just blue is super open. So I don't know if it'll change now that it's just like, wow, like packs at the end are just like all blue cards.
Yeah, like I don't think blue is so bad that you should avoid it at all costs. There are still some good cards in blue.
For sure.
And so that's how draft is going to be self-correcting, right? Where you're seeing blue is open now, you're going to end up drafting blue a bit more and just winning on the back of 3/3 flyer scry 1 or whatever. But I think it's in general good to kind of keep an eye out. If you can go red, you should try. Like if you're making a pick between a red card and a blue card, and maybe just take the red card because you'd rather be red than blue.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you found any difference between like the middle three? I wasn't really able to rank them. Black and green.
It's hard because I like white so much, but I do feel like there are some cards that are just not as. I'd rather be in black. I think I'd rather be in black and red, or I even enjoyed the black and the green or black and white, but if I can't be in red, but yeah, I think black might be the next one. Which
I could buy that.
Which would make sense.
Because black has like power word kill and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I also like that dragon a lot. It does cost 7 mana, but the whole, straight up killing one of their creatures is great.
Yeah, it might be the best dragon because just like the easiest 2-for-1 you'll ever get.
Exactly.
And it's a good 2-for-1. Like the card you're up is a 4/4 flyer.
Exactly. Also, because black has the Reaper's Talisman, right? So it just seems like I would like to be there.
Yeah, although I found Grim Bounty, is that what it's called? I found that worse than I would have expected it to be on the outset, just because it's just a bit slow. And like a lot of the time I need to kill their 2-drop, and then I have Grim Bounty, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I've had many people kill a 2-drop with Grim Bounty, and then I play an Owlbear or something, and they're like, oh. Well.
Yeah.
So, not that I do think that Grim Bounty is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad, but I would have expected it to be like the best common in the set at, kill something, make a treasure. It's really powerful. But I think that award has to go to Dragon's Fire, probably.
Yeah, well, for sure. Yeah, Dragon's Fire is so good. I've actually been impressed with Manticore just because it seems so bad because it's like a 4-mana 2/1 flyer. And I'm like, oh, I don't love that. But the combination of that with some like first striking creatures is really awesome. And being able to either block with a rust monster, what is it, like a rust monster? Yeah. Or if you're attacking and you're like making a chump attack, and then after first strike damage you get to flash that guy in. It's that's a thing that is now happening a lot more when I have to. All right, well, they are.
Yeah.
If I see a first striker, I'm like, they could play this and like really blow me out. So I am not blocking those anymore.
Yeah, you definitely have to keep Manticore in mind for sure. I think once people start remembering it's in the set, cards like this tend to get a lot worse.
Yeah.
Because we've seen iterations of the flash thing that destroys a creature that took damage.
Yeah, we had that in Call Time as well. It's a similar thing where it was 4 mana, but that one had Foretell, so you could hold up 2 instead. Right.
Yeah, and the cards are always fine, but they do get a little worse as people play the format more and remember that this is a part of it. Whereas, when you don't know any of the cards, you're just like, oh, whatever, I'll just block. Why wouldn't I? And then, that's
then
why I don't block their 1/1 with my 7/6. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would probably agree with that. That if I was forced to choose the second best color, I'd say black. But I think it's all very close at that point.
I agree. I definitely agree with that as well.
So yeah, I think last time I was talking about how the format's not that fast, and I basically have completely changed my mind on that now. Like, I think it can get into these grindy kind of stall the board situations. But most of my games are going much quicker now because I'm just taking the 2-drops. Like, this set just has really, really good 2-drops at common.
Mm-hmm.
Like, almost every color. I think blue is the only color that does not have a strong 2-drop at common.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I think blue's the worst, because the 2-drops are bad.
I also think it's interesting because there are... I had seen something that was talking about how the set was going to be slow because each color has a 1/3 for 2 that will stop 2-drops. Some of the, like, besides the Hobgoblin Captain, but... you play your Steadfast Paladin and someone plays a 1/3, you're like, well, that's not the worst thing because I'm going to gain life, but I won't really get in any damage. But most of those 1/3s are not very good. Like...
Exactly. And like, even the black 1/3 wants to be attacking. It doesn't want to be on blocking 2-drop duty.
Exactly. But, like, I don't see a lot of people playing the Dawnbringer Cleric, or if they do, I'm like, sweet, that's not good. That the Pixie Guide...
That one, I think, is probably the best one, just because... sometimes nailing an enchantment for free is kind of nice.
That is true. I just feel like you're in white, so you're playing... Oh, I guess no, someone could charm something to sleep. There are 2 different tap down your thing in blue. So no, that is good. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it. That's it.
Yeah, it's not my favorite card. Like, other people take it ahead of me in their pick orders, so I never have it.
Yeah.
But...
And I think every time it's been played against me, I'm like, okay, sure.
Sure, yeah. It's never been good against me, but I can imagine a situation where it's good.
Yeah. The only time I want it is if someone plays a Minimus Containment on me, and I'm like, man, I wish I could either blow this up or, play something that would make them sacrifice it, like the Beholder. But
Yeah, there is a lot of, like, enchantment-based removal, because there's even portable... Oh, that's an artifact, I guess.
That's an artifact. But there's like 3.
Yeah, so there's 3, right?
There's 4 because there's the blue. There's the blue Charmed Sleep, and then there's the other blue one that cares if it's red. Also taps it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
It does more stuff if it's red, but if it's not, then it does less, of course. Plus, there's the black one too. Precipitous Drop is there. So there are quite a few enchantments. Sorry. I'm like second guessing myself. It's enchantments, right? Yes, it's enchantments.
Yeah.
Those are what those are called. And
man, aren't you an Auras player?
Yeah, right. So there are like a few cards that will get rid of those things, but for the most part, I still, maybe that's just me. No, maybe I'm having a moment where I'm realizing I should be playing more enchantment removal in my decks, because there have been times where it's like, man, if I could just get that whatever card that's underneath that turned it into a crystal back, man, that would be great.
Yeah, really, but like you were saying, the Beholder is a beating, but like the 1/3 is whatever, because the 1/3 body's not that useful, so it's like kind of good.
Yeah.
But even in the dream situation, if you get a 1/3 and you blow up an enchantment, it's still like, that wasn't that much better than Naturalize.
Yes.
Because the 1/3 is not that relevant. Mm-hmm. The Baleful Beholder always feels like a friggin' beating, because it's a 6/5 and it blows up your enchantment.
Yeah. The only thing with that is that they just sacrifice it. So if they have more than one, they can do the lesser.
Yeah, but I feel like that's fairly uncommon. And I think the upside of sometimes you just win because you give everything menace is also pretty nice.
That's very true. That card is pretty good, actually. I do like it.
I've liked it. I like having like one copy in my black deck.
Yes. I think my first sealed pool had 2 of those and 2 of the Gaze of the Beholder, or Eyes of the Beholder. I keep trying to say Gaze, but it's Eyes of the Beholder. Anyway, so that I have a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth because the Beholder just clogged up my top end, and I was just like,
right.
All right, well, I'm cutting a lot of these cards because it's just too much. But no, I do think that card's pretty good.
All 6-drop Beholder-related cards all the time.
Yeah, all the time, yeah. But anyway, I quickly just we talked about all the different color pairs and everything, but splashing colors. We touched on this a little bit in other draft formats, saying, "Hey, look at my just pile of cards that are good, and I have a bunch of fixing." And this format doesn't feel like it has a lot of fixing.
No, so it's always interesting, like how good Evolving Wilds is in a format. I think it's pretty good here, but not for the reason it's usually good. Usually you pick up Evolving Wilds and it lets you splash. I don't even like doing that in this format.
Mm-hmm.
I pick up Evolving Wilds just to smooth out the mana base, you know?
Yeah.
Just so I can play like a 10-9 mana base or whatever. Or like a 9-9 mana base, I mean.
Yeah.
Because splashing just honestly doesn't... You don't get the 2 or 3 non-treasure sources that you would normally get to make it worth it. So even when you're splashing, it's usually just off treasure. But the fact is, you want to be using your treasure just to cast spells in a natural game of Magic. You don't want to always have to sit back and think, I got to keep a treasure because I put a white card in my deck.
Exactly.
Like, I actually drafted a pretty good red-black... when I drafted red-black treasures, I decided to splash an Adult Gold Dragon into it.
Mm-hmm.
Just off the, copious
Treasures.
amounts of treasure generating I had in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still always annoying. Every time I drew it, I couldn't cast it, and then I had to wait to draw a treasure creator.
And then wait till the next turn because you probably have to wait.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have splashed a little bit, and I've been doing fine. But for the most part, yeah, I would say that is the splash that I would go for. Is the I'm already playing one of the colors. I need one color pip of that. It's already technically like it doesn't feel like a completely different colored card, right? Like I'm not just splashing one good black rare in my white red deck, right?
Right.
But yeah, it is hard, and I would say don't do it, especially because a lot of the good ones are like double colored.
I think usually it makes your deck enough worse that it's not worth it.
So yeah, I'm basically saying don't do that. And the other thing is don't splash for off-colored classes.
Yes.
You can't level them up.
Yeah, exactly. Classes are good because your ability to level them up, and it's so hard to do that off the splash. So even if you get some really powerful, like the Paladin class is a very powerful card, it's not a good card to splash. You know, think of it as like a triple white card.
Exactly. It's the same thing with the man lands because you can't activate them, you know?
Yeah.
Like don't make that the source, your black source. You won't be able to turn it on. Like,
yeah.
Just little, because those are just weird brain farts that you have. And we've been so used to these last few sets have been like common dual lands. And we're like, sick, they're everywhere. This is not that. Mm-hmm. This is a core set. It's not called that, but it is functioning like that.
It's very core-setty. Like, you play 2 colors, almost never more than that, almost never 1 color. Stats matter. Like, just get guys that have good stats. Those are always going to be pretty good cards. You know, like, there are a lot of formats where the random 7/6 giant that gains 3 life would not be good, and in this format it's fine because it's just huge. Mm-hmm. And so, if you like core sets like I do, you're probably really enjoying this set, because it's like a little bit of a supercharged core set in that the themes are pushed a little harder than they would be, but it still comes down to the fundamentals of like it's a 3/3 for 3. Let's see what I could do with it.
Yeah, and I think the only supercharged parts are like the dice rolling cards look like a lot, but they're really not because most of the time they just barely change, and of course the choose your own adventure cards. Add a lot of text.
Give a lot of freedom, yeah.
Yeah, because then you get like you get double value on cards that you normally wouldn't. So that's the only piece that feels different than a core set. But for the most part, it's a core set, and I love it. And I agree with you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I always love core sets.
Core sets are great. So it was kind of sad when they were like, hey, we're going to get rid of this, but at least we have this. So
yeah, I think they intentionally tried to keep some of the spirit of core set draft alive in this format, which I appreciate as someone who... Like, every summer I end up drafting a ton because I just love drafting where we just all have a bunch of 2/3s and let's see who wins, you know? Like.
Exactly. It's also really smart that it would be the core set if this is supposed to bring D&D players into Magic. Smart.
Right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Look at us.
Totally.
So good.
Impromptu question I have for you because I was just thinking about it.
All right.
how would you like? How do you feel about the rares in this set? Because some sets the rares are like so good that they dominate the format, and in some sets, you know, they're just fine, and you add them to your deck. You're always going to play them, but they don't take over the game. You know.
So I think the rares are a good place where there are some that are awesome, there are some that are constructed playable, and there's some that are just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know how to play with Flumph. I don't know, like...
I had somebody play Flumph against me.
Yeah.
It's like, is this even good?
Like, I don't... Maybe it blocks long enough for your control deck to work, and
You have to be confident in your game plan if you think Flumph is a good
Yeah,
card
if you're
for
main
your deck, I
decking,
guess.
if you're main decking that card, you must be like a pro because I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. But I have liked it because like the fact that you can still play dragons and you don't need rares, awesome. Love that.
That's always fun, yeah. I remember that brings me back to the Dragons of Tarkir days, which I also really enjoyed that format.
Because it still feels like you have a bomb even though it's not a rare. You know what I mean? And it's not just the 7/6 giant or something, right? It's like, oh, this is a bomb that you're going to have to worry about this flying thing. But yeah, I do think that there are a lot of constructed playable rares in Mythics, and you don't necessarily need them in your deck.
Yeah, I agree. I think the rares do not dominate the game. The Planeswalkers are obviously very, very strong.
Yeah.
And I think the only rare that I've encountered that felt really egregious was Meteor Swarm, where it was just like, all right, well, you blew up my entire board and kept your board completely intact.
That card's so good.
That one felt a little bit like this card should be banned from the limited format.
You know what happened to me today? I was playing. So we're at parity in this like board state. No, we weren't even at parity. It was just like I had blockers enough to stay at 1 life, and then on this crackback I was going to win. And so they're deciding whether they could attack me because I had so many skeletons and I had the skeleton thing going. And they draw their card, and they're looking at it, and they had no cards in hand besides this. And they rope like twice. And then they play Meteor Swarm. And I'm like, why did you do that to me? Why did you...
Kill everything, you're dead.
Yeah, and it was just like, you knew you were going to slam that, but you really made me sweat.
They had to like count the X they were able to pay for.
Yeah, I think it was just them figuring out how to play it, not being mean to me.
How to actually cast this card.
But it felt...
Like, in paper, they would just flip it and you'd concede.
Yeah, but it felt like so rude because it was like, oh, dude, you could have just...
The ultimate, the old double rope slow roll.
Yeah, it's like, when it's really like, you're just saying, oops, like trying to figure out how much do I put on this? I don't know. So that was rough.
That's the only rare that I feel like, you're never beating that, and that should probably have been a mythic rare, even if it would be an unexciting mythic rare, like just for the limited format, not to have that. Like, you want that to show up as seldom as possible.
Yes.
Or just not even have it in the set, because, like, I don't know. Are people going to play this in Constructed?
I think it's, well, I mean, I love it in this. Apparently it's a sweet, like it's a very well-known spell or something in D&D.
Okay, so they had to do it.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the only one where I've just been like, well, what the fuck? Like, we were having a good game, and then my opponent drew that card. Like,
I guess I love it because I had it. I haven't had it played on me very often, and I've had it many times, so I think it's great.
Okay, so you think it's really
I'm the one doing it to you, so it feels
Yeah.
awesome. Where I'm like,
now you know that you have to double rope before you
exactly. Well, because my whole game is usually like, okay, well, I can win if I draw Meteor Swarm. I win this game, which is obviously that just happens. So I'm like playing just to that one out of like, can I get my Meteor Swarm? Anyway, tangents aside.
Like I was saying, I played against Ranger class and I was able to beat it.
Yeah.
It's a really strong constructed level card, and it was good. Like it was definitely
good
behind a lot.
But I've lost to it. I've lost with it a lot.
Yeah, like it wasn't unbeatable, you know. Whereas Meteor Swarm is kind of unbeatable. Like I don't know, can't imagine a board state where my opponent has like 6 mana and Meteor Swarm, and I win the game at some point.
Yeah, like the 3 red mana is supposed to make
I have
it
all 9/9s.
I think the 3 red mana is supposed to make it harder, except for you have treasures in that color. So you're like, oh well, I have 2 red mana. That's enough plus a treasure.
Exactly, which also means they can often cast it for like 5 and just wipe everything.
So good. That card's so good. I love it. But speaking
If you thought Magic Missile was good,
Yeah,
wait till you see
this, yeah, that's actually fun. They kind of like level up. It's like I think the same character would probably have Magic Missile and then eventually move up to Meteor Swarm. Anyway,
like a wizard. Yeah.
yeah, I don't really know, but so coming from cards that we think are really great, I want to bring back the no pass list. We have talked about this a long time ago. I feel like it doesn't come up very often, but just a reminder, just a refresher. Jeff, what is a no pass list?
All right, so a no pass list is the encapsulation of our idea that we promote rare drafting.
Yes.
Sorry. So by a no pass list, I mean, think about, and this only applies if you play constructed. If you have no interest in constructed whatsoever, then just draft as you would, I suppose. But if you are interested in constructed, just take a little look through the available cards, rares and mythic rares in this format, and think, which ones do I really want for my collection, for my constructed decks? And then just kind of make a deal with yourself that you will never pass those cards. That way you aren't, wondering during the draft, should I take the card that's better for my draft deck or should I take the card that's better for my collection? Because you've already made the deal. You're taking the card for your collection.
Exactly. And this is a great way for you to also just look at the cards, actually decide which ones you want and you need for decks that you're actually going to build and play, as opposed to in the draft being like, oh, well, I might want to do that. That'd be kind of fun. And then you waste a pick on it or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is so that you
Exactly.
don't have to waste your rare and mythic cards or wild cards, because it's so hard to get rare and mythic wild cards that there is no shame in taking them in the draft. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about rare drafting.
And the reality is, like, the good uncommon or common that would make your draft deck is only going to change your likelihood of doing well in the draft by like a couple percent. So at best, like it's often not, you're not going to draw it or what have you. And over the course of however many games the draft is going to be, like 5 to 9 games or whatever, it's just not going to make that huge of an impact. It might win you like one game or something, but most of the time it won't. So you're not actually giving up that much by rare drafting, despite what other people would have you believe.
Exactly. But also note, like, the reason we want to have a list of cards that we actually want to use is so that you're not looking at something like True Polymorph and you're like, oh, but it's a rare. And you're like, well, but True Polymorph, are you actually going to play that card? Is it ever going to...
You don't want to play that in draft or constructed.
It's just not. It's not good. And just because it's gold, just don't worry about some of those cards. You already had made the
have a
decisions.
list of cards that you want for whatever constructed deck you're working towards, or constructed decks you might want to play in the future,
or something that you're trying to brew or anything like that.
Exactly. And our number one recommendation is that whatever rare dual lands, or like in this case man lands, are in the set, they should always appear on your no pass list. I even had the Snarls on mine, and those are some of the worst duels ever.
Yes. I also had Snarls on mine. So, but yeah, usually the lands are usually the first thing I go with, because it's you're going to play them in every deck basically that you have.
Exactly. I almost said rare lands, but then I remembered that we have one in this set that like makes treasures or something.
No, we have 2 other rare lands in the set. One of them lets you venture into the dungeon, and the other one sacrifices to make treasures.
My god, the one that ventures into the dungeon, I looked at it, I was like, why is this so bad?
It's so bad.
Like you have to tap a legendary creature and 4 mana and this or something, and it's like, what the hell?
It also enters the battlefield tapped, don't forget.
Like, what happened in playtesting that this card had to get power nerfed to the point where it's awful?
It's so bad. Like,
unplayable in any context in every form.
You don't even put this in your commander deck, which is what, like...
No, why would you?
It's so bad.
Expensive.
It's so expensive and bad. No.
And it's like totally useless and limited, because you're never going to have a legendary creature and this and all the mana to tap it and want to do that.
At sorcery speed? It's terrible.
Yeah.
So that's a no pick list, actually. Don't ever take that card.
Yeah, actually put that on your never pick this ever list.
It's so bad. But also, like, Planeswalkers, duh. Just pick the Planeswalkers.
Yeah. So maybe I'll just go through mine first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead. I was just saying what was the same. In
Yeah,
between ours,
both
but-
our lists start the same. So both our lists start with all the man lands, which are the
creatures
lands.
that
act, or the lands
Yeah.
that activate to become a creature.
Maybe we should just call them creature lands. Maybe that makes more sense.
Sure. Yeah. And then or person lands.
Person lands.
Should not be.
Yeah. Maybe the only ones that are man lands are the ones that make a token that looks. I don't know. No, that doesn't even work.
Yeah, no,
Let's just do creatures.
Let's go with
creature
creature
lands.
Yeah. And then all the planeswalkers. Now I don't always have this. Like I was saying, I always have the rare lands. I don't always have the planeswalkers, but I just particularly really like the ones in this set, and I think all of them kind of have a shot at seeing some play. Maybe like Eliwick is the least likely to really see any constructed play, just because she centers around a limited mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them I think are pretty good, and I just like them and would like to have them. So those are on my list. And then I have Eben Death, which is the black dragon. This is just the kind of card that I love, and it's powerful, so I just want it to have access. I know I'm going to brew something that has this card in it at some point, Then we got Flame Skull, which is the 3/1 flying red creature that dies and you get it back, essentially, or something else. I just think that's going to be a staple if red aggressive decks are good in future standard. This thing's going to be a part of it. And, maybe there's a good Gruul deck or something that I'll play that wants this mythic rare. Then there's Imrith, Desert Doom. This is the control finisher that I talked about last week, or maybe the week before. No, last week, I think. And I love it, so I'm going to build a blue-white control deck based on that at some point. Loyal Warhound is the 1/3 that gets you a plains. I just like this card. I'm definitely going to brew with this.
Interesting.
For sure. I don't think this has to go in an aggro deck. I'm not playing mono-white aggro, but I'll be playing something that involves that. Orcus, Prince of Undeath. I mean, I feel like you were saying earlier you don't tend to like Rakdos. Somehow I've become a Rakdos mage, I feel like. Just the past 6 months, I'm always trying to play Rakdos, and then in this limited format, Rakdos is my favorite too. I think Rakdos is starting to wrench my, my servitude from the hands of Golgari, but we'll see. Orcus, Prince of Undeath, just a really cool, strong card, and it's going to go in. If Rakdos midrange is a thing, which I would love to play, that'll be a part of it. And then the last two are I know these are good cards that will be played in a top tier deck, which is mono green. So those are going to be Ranger Class and Werewolf Pack Leader. I know both these cards are going to see a lot of play.
Yep, absolutely.
And already are, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And then for my list, like I said before, the creature lands and the planeswalkers. I think for me, the planeswalkers that I'm least excited are the blue and the green one. Mordenkainen.
Oh yeah, I would agree with Mordenkainen's also.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned Eliwick, and I agree that
Yeah.
Mordenkainen's my least favorite as well.
I think I like Eliwick a little bit more because it already feels like the minus ability might fit into the legendary green deck. That whole thing, but
even if you're not really about venturing.
Yeah. So maybe venturing is just like an extra thing. Ranger.
Or you just activate her twice and just get creatures both times.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with that.
And be like done. Ranger class, and I also Werewolf Pack Leader was on my list until I got all of the copies. Same as was it Guardian of Faith, the white card I also have all the copies of that. So I took them off the list. Gelatinous Cube, which is the black card that goes really well with our Skyclave Apparition. So I'm definitely going to play a white-black deck that uses both of those cards and some other nasty stuff, some Paolos and things. So that's going to be really fun.
It's decent against mono green. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll see how I feel. Triumphant Adventurer might fit into something like that. So I just kind of want to have those cards. As well as Nadar, Selfless Paladin. I just...
See if you can work a dungeon sub-theme.
Yeah, maybe I can have something like that. We'll see how that works. And then Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which I talked about last week. Basically nice. All the Worthless Lot cards, of course, I'm going to put them in there. But Tasha's Hideous Laughter is a great one. And then Forsworn Paladin. That's the 1-mana black 1/1 that you can make treasures and also give something Death Touch in a pump. But that one seems like it could be I don't know if it'll do a lot in standard, but it could have a spot in like that mono black deck, the mono black aggro deck in historic, and if we could see some other stuff. So I was like, hey, might as well get these. Those are decks that I like. So I
know people are playing it in the red black like treasures deck, and I'm not sold on it there. I think they're just feels a bit too slow for standard.
Yeah. I do like it can just sit back and make treasures for you. That's fun. Whenever you need one to play a creature to give it +1/+1.
I did get my ass kicked by this thing in limited.
Yeah.
Like, man, it was hard to beat this. But I do like the idea of trying it in that mono black self-life loss aggro deck.
Yeah, I just think like the doing that plus the menace would be really helpful in the deck. So
yeah, it's a nice list.
Yeah.
I have a good head start on my manland collection. You know, I have like 2 or 3 of each.
I have all the bugbears.
Nice, yeah. It's always nice when you complete the first set, you know, and you're like, all right.
You're like, boom, done. I would like to say, so this is the first time I have done the spend all of your common and uncommon wild cards thing.
Oh, you did it?
I did it.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't have enough to get all the uncommons, but I have all the commons. And so the idea behind this, if you haven't heard, is that if a new set comes out and you have a bunch of common and uncommon wild cards that you're not using for anything else, like hundreds of them, and you're like, what do I do with this? Just craft play sets of every single common and uncommon card. And then you have them, and so when you're drafting, you're just building up vault progress, and you just slowly but surely turn them into rare and mythic.
Yeah, it's a way to convert, you know, useless common and uncommon wild cards into a small amount of rare and mythic wild cards.
Yeah. It takes time, and it's not very efficient, but at least they're doing something. So
it's better than nothing, right? Yeah, like if you have your 400th uncommon wild card, you know, it's doing literally nothing for you. So,
yeah, I've been able to open the vault, or whatever the vault. That's what it's called, which has been great. So that's good. But I did want to quickly talk about. I know we're running a little bit long, but just the idea of collecting your collection. Sure. And
that's what you do.
Just. Jeff, do you think it's possible to just have every card in the set so you can build every deck you ever wanted, all the rares and mythics, every single card, without spending tons and tons of money and buying tons and tons of packs?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I don't know if that should necessarily be your goal. Like you should just kind of like we're suggesting here, you should veer towards the cards that you actually want. Rather than worry about collecting everything. But, you know, for those who haven't been with us the whole time, maybe didn't listen to the first couple episodes, we actually made an account, brand new, and spent $0 on it. That was kind of the idea, is what can we do with a totally free-to-play account? And we just drafted Zendikar. Zendikar Rising? Is that what
Zendikar Rising. It gets hard once you start drinking beers. It's hard to remember stuff. So.
And, like, you know, there's so many sets that have come out, and you're like, was it Zendikar School of Mages?
Yeah.
Is that it? But we made a new account, and then just from drafting Zendikar and spending our gold wisely and stuff, we got, I would think, almost every card in Zendikar. Like, I think we don't have play sets of everything, but we have at least 2 or 3 copies, and we have play sets of most rares. Maybe we're missing a couple of mythics. I remember the only, like, when I was trying to build decks, the only glaring thing we were missing was that we didn't have a playset of Kazandu Mammoth.
Yeah.
But all of the, like, playable rares in Standard, we just had playsets of them.
Just from drafting.
Mythic rares as well. And we had a good, healthy chunk of wild cards, too. So if I wanted to complete that collection, we could have.
Yeah. So basically, it's a discussion that we have already had many times before, but just if you're collecting, it's awesome. Totally collect the cards you want, build the decks you'd like, but if you're going into a draft, and that's probably one of the best ways to get your collection, have an idea of the cards that you're looking for, which is why we make these lists. And don't tank a draft just because you're trying to collect all the rares of whatever card you're never going to use. But also just know, like, you might not have a play set of every single card in the set, and that's fine. Like, if you want to collect it, that's awesome too. You will have to spend lots of money to do that. But to play the game, you don't have to do that. And that's okay.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, like when I was saying you could get every card, we're talking you're playing a lot.
Yeah.
Like just all the time, basically.
And
Because-
when you don't get your gems back, you will have to put more in. So just...
right, that's the hard part is
Just
you have to be very good too, I guess,
Yeah.
to just never have to buy more gems.
Exactly. But like on Arena, it is possible to go, I don't know, people try to go infinite, whatever. I'm not trying to say go infinite, but it's much more feasible to have a complete play set of every card in the set in Arena as opposed to in paper, where it would cost a lot more than that. And no one expects to have a whole play set in paper. So I don't know why people expect to do it in Arena. That's all I'm saying.
Totally. Like if I really wanted to play mono green, while I'm drafting, if I pick up all 4 ranger classes and all 4 werewolf pack leaders, I just save myself 8 wild cards for this deck.
Boom.
Now I only have to buy like Kazandu Mammoth and Faceless Haven, I guess. The other notable rares that like really make the deck tick. And I've probably picked up some rare wild cards from drafting, and I could probably make this deck. Like, we made our tier 1 deck pretty quickly after making that account.
So, yeah, I mean, just things to think about. Those are some things to think about, is all. Anyway, Jeff, my beer is gone, and I think it's getting close to last call.
Okay.
Do you have any last thoughts just to wrap this up? Because I'm going to keep asking you that.
Yeah. I do, actually. There's one thing I wanted to say that I think I forgot to say it. So I was talking about how good the 2-drops are in this set.
Yes.
And I want to make it clear that doesn't mean you have to be aggressive. But because there are such good 2-drops at common, it means that aggressive decks are good. And so you have to draft with taking that into account. So an example I had of this is that Portable Hole and Shambling Ghast. So Portable Hole is the 1-mana artifact that exiles a creature CMC 2 or less, mana value 2 or less. And Shambling Ghast is the 1/1 that when it dies, you either get a treasure or give something -1/-1. Both of those cards are much better than I expected them to be coming in, because the 2-drops are such a big part of an aggressive deck's game plan that Portable Hole just lets you like turn 3, Portable Hole your 2-drop, play my own 2-drop, and suddenly you're way ahead. Or Shambling Ghast, it's like if you play that on turn 1, it's just so annoying for anyone who's trying to attack. And so you don't have to be aggressive yourself, but you have to respect the fact that some of the best commons in the set are aggressive 2-drops. And so you have to make sure you have a plan to answer an opponent that is planning on attacking you with a 3/1 first striker on turn 3.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think people are catching on to the Shambling Ghast, but the Portable Hole, it's just a sleeper. You can get those for sure. So
yeah, and they're actually surprisingly good. They answer your opponent's Shambling Ghast pretty clean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, let's head to last call and get to the last beers of the night.
Ready?
Big reveal time. Let's see it. 3, 2, 1. Hey, we both picked Wizard Soup.
Yeah, how could I not pick Wizard Soup?
The salted
Or
lime.
wasn't it Dragon
goza.
Soup or something? Yeah.
Dragon Soup, Wizard Soup. Either way. Yeah. All right. Okay, I saw you going a little slow, so I was wondering what you felt about this one.
Just trying to savor the flavor.
Okay, all right. So, anyway, I felt like I was about to say, let's get back on track, but we weren't anywhere. We're here right now.
We were exactly on track as we're supposed to be.
Exactly. I'm just so used to us getting off track that I just thought we had to do that.
It's just a line that's built in now.
Yeah. Anyway, as always, each week we rate beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena, except for it's for beers. Tiers for beers. Look at that. And these tiers don't have anything to do with your physical rating or whatever you have. This is just a fun way to rate beers, so don't get offended by how intense we can be about them. I guess
That's right. I've been in every one of these tiers at different points, many different times.
Yes,
so.
we all have. It's not just you, Jeff. We've all been in Mythic. Just kidding.
No, I meant that I've spent more time in like bronze and silver.
Of course. Yeah, I know. I'm just being a dick about it. Okay.
But also subtly pointing out that I've been to
that I've also been to Mythic. I see it.
Let's add Mythic 1200 so I can.
All right. Well, I have not been to Mythic 1200, so that's just throwing me under the bus right there. Anyway, so this means that bronze beers are trash. They are not good. You don't want to finish them. You regret cracking them open in the first place.
Yeah, it's like true polymorph, you know? You regret taking it.
It's like Descent into the Dungeon or whatever that card's called.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, don't take it. Don't take it at all.
Yeah. Next up is silver. These are generally macro brews or, micro brews that basically have nothing going on.
Then gold is a fine beer. You're not going to drink it very often, but it was fine.
Platinum is solid. You would drink this again.
Diamond is exceptional, and you would recommend it to your friends or even Jeff.
And then you got Mythic. These are the best of the best. You would recommend these to just about anyone who will listen. But
Yes.
what's Mythic 1200, though?
Mythic 1200 is just for you. You can sit there by yourself and be happy you qualified.
With my 1,199 true friends.
Exactly. Yeah, you can be happy to qualify for the tournament that you're going to sleep through.
Yes.
Anyway,
We're going to stop having so many beers the night before a big tournament.
that's never going to happen. I know that for a fact. That's never going to happen. So talking about beers, let's start with the one that we didn't pick this time. So
Right.
the Scenic Root.
Scenic Root. Yeah. So it's been a while since I've tasted this one, but I don't know. I thought this one it delivered what it said. It was like a IPA with tropical flavors, and that was nice. But then I didn't think there was anything. It didn't have a ton of punch. It didn't really it didn't wow me.
Yeah, I liked the body, but the fact that that's the thing that I can think about really makes it feel like it wasn't awesome. It was like, oh, that was a nice body of a beer. The tropicalness was there, I guess. And I like it with 6%. That's about it.
Yeah. I think there's something to be, like, it's not a bad beer, but there's something to be said that this is a style that's so, like, well done. There's so many beers that are, IPAs with fruity flavors and tropical fruits in particular. And there are lots of great examples of it. So anytime you drink something like this, you're just comparing it to such a large database of this kind of thing. And I felt like maybe it didn't totally stack up. But
Yeah. I think this was good that it was a small batch one for the month, and it was just a fun experiment. I'm glad that these workers at this brewery got to do that, and I'm happy that there's going to be a different one soon, replacing that
Exactly, yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, and so I think for me, this kind of lands in the gold category.
For sure, absolutely.
I didn't dislike it, but it's unlikely that I would pick this up again.
Yeah, I probably won't pick this up again, but the other one I have in the fridge, I'm happy to drink, and
I will. I'm not going to throw that out. So.
Exactly. Yeah, gold. But for the winner of this evening, the beer I brought, Wizard Soup.
I mean, when you bring Wizard Soup, you can't expect not to win. You're playing your ace at that point.
Yeah. So this is the Radical Goza, the salted lime Goza. I will have to say, normally, this is not a style of beer that I'm super interested in. I usually stay away from it.
It's part of why I picked it as well. I've had, like, pretty bad experiences with salted Gozas. And so when you brought this one, I was a little dubious because every salted Goza I've had before has been awful. Or maybe, like, not awful, but I didn't like it. Like, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I think that is also part of why I picked this one, is that I did like it. So that was showing me that the style can be different than what I had before.
That is interesting because, like, I have never tried this. I didn't know salted Goza was a style until you just said that right now. So I was very surprised. This is... I have tasted this before, but I haven't, thought about actually... rating it, so it does give it a little bit of... I give it a little bit more thought this time, is what I'm trying to say. But I actually am coming away like really liking this. Like, ooh, this feels like a balcony camp beer. Like it's light.
Yeah.
You crush these and they feel good. Like real tasty.
Yeah. Might have to pick up some wizard soup for our next camping trip.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Get that. I think that's it. We might have to snatch that up because I think this might also be like a limited time thing as well. So,
yeah.
But yeah, where does that put it for you then?
I don't understand why radical is spelled this way. It's Radicle. Is that like a joke or?
I don't know. It reminds me of like icicle, but like not. I don't know.
That part is confusing, and it knocked it down at least 2 grades, but
but yeah, like we had a mojito. We had a mojito IPA.
What did we have?
We had a mojito IPA a while ago. Yeah. Oh man, we didn't even have a really high alcohol beers this week, and it still gets made every time. So I was thinking this was going to be similar to that mojito one, but it's drastically different. This has much more of like the salted rim feel with the lime.
You definitely get the salt
for sure, and in a really good way too.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Is like salty beer. This sounds kind of weird, but the salt is really nice in this.
Yeah. It's actually funny. So Catherine's stepdad, my fiance's stepdad, he is a big like lager fan and doesn't like IPAs very much. Because I remember giving him, he likes beer. I'll give him some good beer, and he's like, these are weird. I don't know. And every time
beer is expired, I think.
And every time there's a beer that he doesn't like very much, he asks for some salt, and he puts salt in his beer because he like mellows it or something. There's something to it that he's like, it needs some salt, and he salts his beer, and that's just like a thing he does. And I've never really seen somebody do that. And he'll be like, there we go, now it's better. I'm like, that is okay, cool. But his parents are like Dutch and stuff, so maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But anyway, that of course this beer reminded me of that because it's like so salty. But
salted beer. Yeah.
I like it. I don't know where I am on it.
I think for me, I have this like kind of the platinum diamond border.
I also feel.
I think I'm tempted to push it up into platinum just because I don't generally like this style or even this brewery that much. So
do you mean diamond?
Yeah. What did I say?
Platinum. Yeah. So
I meant push it up into diamond because it just surprised me. Did the unexpected because I wasn't expecting to like it. So
yeah, it definitely tastes different than other beers I've had. I can't say like with the scenic route. It's like there's other ones that have done that. I think I'm also on the fence about it, and I don't know if I want to push it up to diamond, but I think I will. I think it's a diamond. Like
let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Wizard soup, diamond beer. This thing. Yeah. I love the picture. I do like Henderson actually. I know they're not your favorite, but I pick them up often, and this is another one that's just like boom. I would definitely recommend this.
I thought about keeping them in platinum because of the radical fiasco, but diamond it is.
But if I was at a store or something, I would definitely point at this to someone I was with and said, "You should try this." So yes, exactly. I there we go.
Its uniqueness pushes it over.
For sure, absolutely. Okay, there we have it. Wow, some diamonds. That's real nice. We haven't had that in a while. I love it. Feels good. But I think it's closing time.
Closing time.
One last call for alcohol. Anyway, maybe we should just sing that each week. You just like go just straight into it.
I'll have to look up the lyrics because I'm pretty sure that's like the only part I know.
The title of the song? Okay, for sure.
You can't stay here, I know all that, but...
they do change it around a little bit. It doesn't matter. Why did we talk about this?
This is where you can say to get us back on track.
Yeah, let's get back on track to the closing time. And then we just loop over and over again, and you sing closing time, and then I just keep doing that. If you want to reach us to tell us how stupid that was that we just did, or what the lyrics of closing time was, or anything, you could reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, on MTG Arena, you can't tell us what the lyrics of Closing Time are, but you can show us your favorite emotes, stickers, and what have you. We are Arena Regulars Podcast.
Yes, and if you want to talk to me personally and say, wow, that beer that you brought was so fantastic, I went and found some, you're amazing, Zach. I love you. You can find me at Instagram, on Twitter, at Zulberg. That's Zeulberg. But Jeff, where can they find you?
You can find me at Blues Brews MTG, spelled like it sounds.
And please leave a review for Apple Podcasts and iTunes about the show. If you could follow us on Spotify and Stitcher, anywhere that you are listening to this podcast right now, that helps a lot. Tell all your friends, your family, your mom who's not part of your family. We'd really love that. Just spread the word if you like us. It's nice. This has been the Arena Regulars,
reminding you that if you're drafting D&D, draft red, but don't draft red-blue.
Good night. All right, that's fine.